Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a privilege to be able to stand and rise and speak on behalf of New Zealand First in this debate in reply to the Prime Minister's speech. I guess I would start by saying to you, Mr. Speaker, welcome back to the House, and all other members. Likewise, hope you enjoyed the summer break. Hope you took the opportunity to reconnect with communities. One of the things that I've noticed returning to Parliament after a 6-year semester is that people who spend too much time in this place do get disconnected from their communities, and they may make wonderful speeches like the one we just heard, but the reality as to how connected they are pretty much comes home when one is attending a barbecue or a community event back in the community, and people start telling you what's really on their mind and telling you as an MP what they think about the business of this House and the way in which it's been conducted. And so before I get into those comments from folk on the street back home and around the country, I do want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the police and thank you to the fire service, to the council staff and DHBs for what they have done in supporting the country during our summer holiday period. Because one tragic accident in Masterton that saw the loss of 2 young lives, which is totally needless and pointless, severely tested police officers and emergency crews and AMBOs on that evening. And I think we'll hear more about that as it goes on. Bottom line, these are kids. They've died. A couple of kids are in hospital. And the people who wore the brunt of that are the emergency services who had to attend on the day, and of course the grieving families. So again, congratulations to the police and thanks for their work. The fire service, who attended countless calls throughout the country over that holiday period while we were enjoying our time off. Back to the business of the House, and I'm going to say right from word go, New Zealand First is looking forward to this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing our members of Parliament, Tracy Martin, asking some very pertinent questions about who is Andrew West at Lincoln University? Why did Stephen Joyce promote his appointment into that appointment? And why is Lincoln University currently undergoing such a serious set of investigations? And is there an SFO investigation? Tracy Martin will probably also be asking questions about why is the Minister of Education allowing the people of Rangiora who supported the Rangiora High School to be asset stripped? Oh, I guess it's probably something to do with propping up the flagging government funding so they can generate a mythical surplus somewhere along the line by ripping off the people of Rangiora who actually funded that school through a farm and through the earnings through that farm. But it seems to me that Tracy will be asking some serious questions. And I'm really looking forward to hearing Clayton Mitchell talking to the House again about the wonderful attributes of the occupational safety and health legislation that went through the House. Because all we heard out there over the Christmas break from farmers, from small business people, was moaning, whinging and bitching about this government and how out of touch it is and how it simply doesn't understand the consequences of what now has been visited upon them by WorkSafe. We went up to Waitangi along with Winston and we got New Zealand First.
The right honourable member.
Oh, the Right Honourable Winston Peter, and actually the finest leader of any political party known to. And I think probably, Mr. Speaker, will go down in history as the most astonishing and outstandingly successful political leader of all time in New Zealand, without a doubt. And I thank you for raising that, Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable Winston Peter. So we went up there, and what did we hear?
Order. The member will resume his seat. I corrected the member gently, but the member has had a couple of sessions in here and should know that he does not bring the Speaker into debate. Ron Mark.
Speaker. And it's so interesting to hear small business people, medium-sized business people asking us, New Zealand First MPs, what the hell has happened to the National Party? What has happened to it? Has it become the party of the corporates? Has it become the party of the globalists? Because it certainly doesn't understand the consequences of the occupational safety and health legislation that it's visited upon, and of course the TPPA. Well, Fletcher Tabato is our spokesperson on the TPPA, and I'm not even going to attempt to try and address some of the nonsense that we've heard in the House today. The one thing we do know is that Minister Woodhouse just said that the benefit gain was 2.7 billion, and yet all of his leaders on the front bench have been telling everyone it's going to be 3.5 billion. So someone's right, someone's not right, someone's accurate, the other. And as Mr Woodhouse is now saying, the left hand in the National Party doesn't know what the right hand is doing, but that's because the left hand and the right and the National Party probably is kept in the dark like him and is back a couple of seats in the and too far back in the benches there to really know. I will certainly be asking questions about defence, and I've got to say, Mr Speaker, that'll bring in Derek Ball, who will be asking about the limited service volunteer scheme. Because after all the denials and after all of the Official Information Act gaming that's been going on, you'd actually think some of these ministers have been on Xbox, the amount of gaming skill they have and how they are able to manipulate the Official Information Act. We now know that this government that went to an election in 2008 telling the whole nation they believed in boot camps, they believed in young people being put into military training. This was going to be the saviour of our youth. And yet, what have they done? They have cut it, slashed it, burned it, and they are closing this down from 3 limited service volunteer operations in New Zealand. 3 centres, Burnham, Trentham and Auckland. Now we're just going to have Auckland. And here's the irony. Well, no, I won't tell you because Derek Ball's been doing some homework and I'll leave it entirely to him. But there's more to come. So watch out for Derek Ball as he puts the questions once again. And this, Mr Speaker, I've got to say this. I do on occasion get a little bit grumpy in the House, and you've probably noticed that. Sometimes when our first-term MPs, who are acting as front-bench spokespeople, are taking on ministers who refuse to answer questions, who do not tell the whole truth, the exact truth, and everything but the truth in their answers to their questions, you know, I have to say, our first-term MPs in this House have more than delivered what they are expected. These people are punching way above their weight. By comparison, got a whole bunch of National Party first-term MPs who sit down, stand up, read out a written question, an oral question, a patsy question that's been written for them. They probably didn't even know what it said till they walked into here, and then they got the embarrassment of reading out the real patsy supplementaries to go with it. None of that over this side. Hard questioning for the ministers on the facts, on the details, and there'll be more of that throughout 2017. But let's talk about the one thing that the Prime Minister did not want to talk about, the Middle East. You know, Iraq, Afghanistan, hardly a mutter or a murmur about it. And what did we see over the summer break? Well, we saw the Minister, Jerry Brownlee, telling everybody victory in Ramadi. Within 2 days, we found out it wasn't actually a victory in Ramadi. In fact, Mr Speaker, they're still fighting in Ramadi right now as we speak. In fact, Mr Speaker, it would appear when you cut through all the bluster, the propaganda and the bump and the rubbish, which, you know, you'd think it had been written by Comical Ali, who was the propaganda minister for Saddam Hussein, you'd think that we'd had a stunning victory and it was all over. Well, the fact is it's not. So what we know over in this side of the House, because we do have connections, we do know the facts. We do our homework. That's right, no, Mr Mitchell. 10,000 police and Iraqi Defence Force personnel up against a couple of hundred ISIS fighters. And they're still fighting there. They don't have control. They're dealing with an insurgent who knows how to fight despite the fact they have no air cover, and that the combined power of the world's air forces have absolute, unequivocal, unchallenged air superiority. Now, if we'd seen the same sort of fortitude, tenacity and leadership out of the Iraqi officers at Ramadi, it would never have fallen. And whilst we're focused on a big victory in Ramadi and talking about an impending attack on Mosul, my connections tell me that the planning hasn't even started at Mosul. They're still trying to figure out how they're going to finish Ramadi. Whilst that's happening, what are we hearing in Helmand? What are we hearing in Afghanistan? Well, I'll read you a little line. Security conditions in Helmand witnessed a considerable deterioration over the course of early November, and this is an older report, I'm not going to give you the later one. as an expanded Taliban assault on northern central districts occurred alongside defections and withdrawals of ANSF personnel. Go right down to that paragraph. Attrition, desertion, and this is one of the things it says. On investigations reported that only 70 of 520 Afghani National Police assigned to Sanjan remained at their posts in early November. The risk of further deterioration remains high. And what do we now know? Despite everything, we're suing for peace against the Taliban, the very force we said we were going to destroy.
Time has expired.